Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom.
Good morning. This is Jos Visser, the author of Wednesday Wisdom, and this week's article is called Overcoming a Slump. If you're anything like me, you're regularly experiencing the following. It's Friday afternoon, 2 p.m., you're still in the office, but the only thing you seem to be able to do is click between Slack and email and back to Slack. Or maybe you're experiencing this one. It's Wednesday evening. You're sitting at home with a to-do list as long as your arm. But instead of diligently attacking these to-do items, you spend the entire evening doom scrolling or clicking on one YouTube video after another. Welcome to the slump. For quite some time now, I've been wondering about the miracle of human motivation. How come that sometimes we're full of energy and we can't wait to get going on something, whereas at other times we cannot muster the energy to do anything at all, no matter how small it is? It's a question with a complicated and multifaceted answer. One of the reasons for my interest in this topic is that I suffer from the slump regularly. Another reason is that I've seen friends get laid off because they were impacted by the slump for a significant period of time, which made them miss important performance targets. The slump can have serious consequences and it hits everyone from time to time. So it is in everyone's interest to have good strategies for dealing with it. Over the years, I have figured out some things that work for me. I'm not at all claiming that these strategies are universal and will work for you too, but I'll happily share them. Try them out, improve upon them, and keep what works. Or, as Monty Python so aptly put it, adopt, adapt, improve. It's the motto of the round table. Let me start by classifying my slumps as minor, medium, and major. Minor slumps are often the result of simple tiredness. I experienced one of these last Friday. I pulled a number of intense 10-hour workdays that week already, and come Friday I was just tired. And when I'm tired, I find it hard to concentrate and to summon the willpower to focus on anything that is even slightly complicated. That slump lasted into the evening and was even impacting me on Saturday morning. What to do? For minor slumps in the office, I keep a list of action items around that cost me no effort at all but that still need to get done. These are often the tech equivalents of rearranging my sock drawer by color, like fixing up the comments in the code I wrote earlier that week or reviewing a recent post-mortem document. This is the kind of work that I do not waste my most productive hours on because these are better spent doing things that are actually difficult and that require significant focus and brain power. In other words, my strategy is to match the task to the energy level and to make sure that I have a stack of items ready to go for every energy level. With that approach, even my low energy afternoons are spent at least somewhat productively. Here is a strategy that doesn't work, relying on willpower. There's a significant school of thought that says that in a slump, you should just harden the fuck up and get to it. That strategy, my friends, does not work. Willpower is a limited resource, and if it's gone for a while and cannot be used until it replenishes. When there's enough willpower in the tank, it works well, and you will know when this happens because you just get to it, even though you don't feel like it. But for most minor slumps, you're just out of energy and there's no willpower in the tank. What you need to do is relax, and eventually, magically, your willpower reservoir fills up again. Keeping around a list of straightforward tasks is a simple way to deal with minor slumps at work. However, if you're suffering from a minor slump while at home, I would suggest an even simpler approach. Just do nothing for an evening. Click on that YouTube video, cycle from a book to Instagram to a game on your iPad and back to YouTube again. Sure, it's not very productive, but who said that you need to be productive on an evening or a weekend at home? I spent many a weekend just growing a beard, which is not a lot of effort, and which allows me to recover so that I'm all fired up and ready to go on Monday morning. Medium slumps are much harder to deal with. A medium slump is characterized by being low energy for days, if not weeks. I've gone through a number of these in my career, and each of them was prompted by a slightly different root cause. My first medium slump was 2 years into my first job, when I was hit by a bit of a depression caused by the realization that this, in other words, a job, was what I would have to do for the next 40 years. if you're only 24 years old, that seems like a really long time to be doing only moderately interesting work while drinking bad coffee and being in too many meetings from Monday to Friday, dawn to dusk. I overcame that slump by switching to a more exciting job and eventually by reconciling myself with my fate. And eventually I just hardened the fuck up. It does work sometimes. The strategy for this particular slump was do a decent root cause analysis of what's going on and maybe talk to some people. Another possible reason for a medium slump is that you're faced with a problem that you don't know how to approach. I suffered from this once when I took a contract to design some system that I had no idea how to build. I went to the meetings, promised deliverables, but then did nothing because I just didn't know where to start. Looking back, that was clearly ridiculous because the system wasn't that complicated, but hey, that's what 30 years more experience does for you. The strategy I developed from that experience is called just start. If I need to do something and I don't have a good idea on how to do it, I start by implementing my bad ideas while accepting that they are bad, or at least suboptimal. This leads to throwaway work, but at least I'm doing something. And while I'm doing something, something important is happening. I'm learning. For these types of medium slumps, my problem is that I don't understand the problem and solution space deeply enough to formulate a good plan of attack. So I need to investigate these spaces, but the way my brain works is that I only learn when I'm faced with tangible problems that I need to solve. Implementing my bad ideas is a great way for me to start untangling the mess in my head. You might argue that starting to implement bad ideas is not very efficient or very effective, but I would counter that by remarking upon the fact that just sitting there not knowing where to start and what to do is not very productive either. With the just start strategy, at least I'm doing something. Which leaves us with the major slump. I've experienced one major slump at a time when two major life events, a divorce and the untimely death of my mother, coincided with an economic crisis that thwarted a plan that I'd invested a lot of hope in. For months, I could not get anything done, and my to do list was getting longer and longer. The problem with a to do list that long is that it becomes its own source of paralysis, as there are inevitably more and less important things on there as well as bigger and smaller things. The problem with the list becomes that you cannot get yourself to get going on the smaller and maybe less important things, because then you feel guilty that you're not working on the bigger and more important things. The result of all of this is that nothing happens. The list just gets longer with the passing of time. I realized that I needed a lot of time to recover, and eventually I settled on a strategy that contained three elements. The first one is similar to my advice for overcoming minor slumps, but at a different scale. Match the energy to the task. In order to conserve energy, I took a job as a Java programmer that was significantly below my knowledge and skills, thereby ensuring that I would get a paycheck, but without spending too much valuable energy on getting it. The second element of my overall plan was attacking my to do list. I made a promise with myself that every day I would do three things from the list, no matter how small, no matter how unimportant. I convinced myself that if I had done these three things, I would not have to feel guilty. Not even if these three things were completely unimportant, because the contract said that I just needed to do three things, and it didn't specify how big or important they should be. This worked tremendously well, because there were many small and unimportant items on the list that really didn't take more than 5 minutes to complete. By just starting on the list, I created a positive feedback loop that eventually led me to get going on the bigger and more important things as well. The third element of my strategy was to plan a sabbatical, thereby giving myself the gift of time in order to heal. And the gift of time is a reference to an article I released last week or the week before, which talks specifically about how to do sabbaticals. As I wrote at the start of this article, I'm not claiming at all that these are universal strategies that will work for everyone in every conceivable circumstance. You and I are both unique and uniquely different too. But it worked for me, and maybe some of these strategies will work for you too. Adopt, adapt, improve.
Palo Alto Tower, birds on the runway, 94 sharp Papa.
Copy. You scratching for birds on the runway near Bravo?